That rejection of purpose is huge. That's saving you from years of wasted time. It's saving you from years of heartbreak. It's saving you from years of things that you don't need to be in because you thought that your attachment to it was enough for you to stay in it. So we struggle with detachment because we think we're being offered is what we actually deserve. Like one of the mountains that a lot of us face is this reality where we need to detach from things, not because we are not offering what's good, we're not giving into, we're not fully invested, but because sometimes we're the only ones that are. We're the only ones that are pushing into this. We're the only ones that are giving in. And it hurts. It hurts to realize that you have to let certain things go. And one of the biggest generational issues that we've developed, one of the things I've seen very common, is that attachment for us comes through rejection. And yes, we might focus a little more on relationships in this episode, in that aspect, but this relates to absolutely everything. There are situations where we have been rejected from things, and we think that rejection is an invitation to try harder. Right? We think that being rejected from it means I need to give more effort, and sometimes you don't. Sometimes that rejection is actually a redirection. The mountain that you're facing in this situation isn't so much being rejected, it's understanding that you were not meant to be there, and learning what purpose actually is, and learning how to tie that fully into ourselves. So when we talk about this mountain of rejection, I need you to understand that it doesn't mean that you need to try harder. It doesn't mean that you need to be attached to it more. That it doesn't mean that this thing holds any weight over you. What it ultimately is the reality of us understanding that certain things in our lives will continue to be mountains as long as we give them authority to be. And we've allowed them to be in positions that we've attached to it because we've conditioned ourselves to it. So we're going to talk about attachment in this episode. We'll talk about detachment ultimately. We're going to talk about the reality that some mountains only exist because we've given authority to them. They're only present and prevalent because we have allowed them to be. Because in our either teaching or either upbringing in this generation, we have conditioned our life to fit this. And let's be real, for a lot of people, this is one of the biggest struggles. Like the reason we don't progress anywhere else, and again, it's not just about relationships. Yes, I'm going to hone in on that because I see how much of an issue it is. There's how many conversations we've had, but I need you to understand that this is everything. There are certain career paths that you've envisioned in your life, and you're stuck in this mountain because you think that you need to do this thing, or there's certain things that your family has brought up in you and has taught you and told you, and you think that the only way you are the best version of you is that if you overcome that mountain. So this repetitive nature of attachment, and yes, there's a positive attachment too, and of course we'll touch on that. But this negative, we're looking at negative attachment, things that we shouldn't be attached to, these things that we created a stronghold over our lives. We've given authority to because we've looked at it and made it the biggest center point of our life. But I need you to realize that this mountain disappears the moment that you start taking authority back. The moment that you stop putting yourself in things just because you think you have to be there. And I know this is a tough one for a lot of people. I know that this thought of what life should look like and what life should be like is ingrained in us and hard to, disconnect from because you've been repeating this and you've created this cycle around it. But when we learn what toxic attachment is, and we learn what healthy attachment is, and we learn what growth genuinely is, we can actually sit here and discern and decipher through what's there. So knowing that the thing that you were facing, this mountain that you're in when it comes to attachment, whether it is a job or a career or a person or whatever that looks like, knowing what this is and being able to sort it out is going to help you look at it from a different perspective. Knowing that life is fleeting and is short, and keeping that in mind will also allow you to realize that you can't spend too much time there. Yes, you might have created a story. Yes, you might have wanted it, but it doesn't mean that you belong there. So let's dive into this. Let's look at what this mountain is. And if this relates to you, I really hope that this is a freeing one for you today. That there's something positive in here that helps you grow, because I think for a lot of people, this is a big struggle. Like I know, and I speak from experience, right? I know that I've gone through these things. I know the conversations that I've had, the people that I've engaged with. This is such a repeating thing. It's like I can't let go of this thing because in my mind, I've convinced myself of how much it's worth and whether they're actually reciprocal in it, where I'm receiving back or not. I think that I need to be the reason that I change things. But if you don't notice, there's a lot of I statements there. You have made yourself the God over your life, the unholy trinity, me, myself, and I. You have created this thing where you think that you have to force it into existence because you've spent so much time investing in it, the sunken cost fallacy. You think that because you failed so many times, now this thing has to eventually work. And you create an attachment to it because in your brain, in your mind, that's how it's going to work. It's only going to work when you make it work. And I need you to understand that yes, there's always a byproduct of your effort and your work and your time. But sometimes you're pouring out into the void. You're giving into something that isn't genuinely there. You're pouring into an illusion of what you desired and not a reality of what you have. You are pushing into something that unfortunately is never going to push back into you. So knowing what this is, we have to understand that rejection doesn't mean more effort. Rejection of timing versus rejection of purpose. There's this distinction between these two things. Sometimes there is rejection because we're not ready for this thing, right? I often equate this when I talk to people about like prayer, or when you're asking for something, when you're praying, when you're trying to receive something, but you're not ready to handle that thing. And you don't understand that the timing of what you're asking isn't appropriate. You're not in the space, you're not in the mindset, you're not in the financial set, you're not in the emotional stability for this thing to be in your life. So what's happening is that you're asking for something that you can't maintain. And I promise you, the heartbreak of losing something that you desperately wanted because you were not capable of maintaining it is going to hurt so much more than the heartbreak of not having it. Sitting here through this thing that you were not prepared to cultivate into, because you can ask again for a brand new car, but if you never did the work to get the license or learn how to drive, then it's pointless to have that car. That car is going to sit there and is going to just gain dust, or maybe you might try to drive it and crash it because you thought that you wanted this thing, but you didn't know that you actually need other things beforehand. So sometimes rejection of timing is important. We need to understand and be able to discern that, is this thing in the appropriate time? There's a mountain in front of me. Is it a mountain of time that I have to work and scale at and climb through? Or is it something that is just not appropriate for me? That's when we look at rejection of purpose. There are some things in your life, some people in your life that will never align with the purpose that you were made for. And you praying for those things to exist in your life, you asking or pleading or trying your hardest for that thing to exist in your life is actually going to drive you away from purpose. It's going to drive you away from the thing that's actually going to help you grow, because you think that the attachment to the person or the position or the place is the thing that you need to pour more into. And that rejection of purpose is huge. That's saving you from years of wasted time. It's saving you from years of heartbreak. It's saving you from years of things that you don't need to be in because you thought that your attachment to it was enough for you to stay in it. Sometimes the rejection of purpose is saving you from something so much greater, something so much bigger. Yes, timing and purpose are huge. Yeah, we can put them together, but we need to understand that sometimes that's the reality, that the purpose behind the thing, the purpose behind the person, the purpose behind that thing that I'm attached to isn't aligned with the purpose that I have. And we can convince ourselves of so much, because think about it. You can lie to yourself enough where your brain begins to just see that and believe it. The whole affirming thing, whether you come to that in a spiritual component or not, there is a scientific reality behind it, that the things that you constantly say to yourself, that things you repeat, you're going to believe. It's inevitable. Like, I know people like to make the joke, and I joke about all the time, like, yeah, you know, I'm broke or stuff like that. Like, that's, yeah, I get it. We say, oh, don't say those things because you're going to believe it. But it's deeper than that. It's things that you genuinely affirm and genuinely believe. Like, and I'm not saying to joke around with things because you shouldn't, but there's a reality of things that you're affirming in you that have a conviction in you versus things that you just casually say. And again, not saying that you just casually say them, but the things that you speak in conviction are the things that you're genuinely going to live in. And if you're telling yourself that this thing that you are attached to, this mountain that's in front of you, is the mountain you have to stay on, then you're going to create an attachment that you don't need to have. We need to learn this big takeaway here. We need to learn that we are able to refocus our attachment to rejection and refocus it to growth. Like, the reality is the thing that we were in, the thing that we were pushing in, the thing we were consistently, that mountain in front of you, you've designed this attachment to it because of rejection, because you thought that the harder you were rejected, the more effort you had to give, or the constantly rejected, you thought that because of that rejection, you had to consistently pour in, whatever that might have been, you're tying. We need to learn and realize that you have that ability to grow something amazing. Because if you were willing to pour in so much into a place that didn't love your value, imagine if you poured into you. Imagine if you sat there and saw how much you were willing to offer them and began to offer that to yourself. If you learned to focus on you and love you and attach yourself to yourself in a healthy way, that rejection is not meaning that you have to be closer, but reality that you can refocus into you. When you learn to pour into you, something powerful happens. There is this new level of you that's birthed out of this. And I can't stress this enough. If you have dealt with rejection, if you have been pushed away, if you have been made feel like you're worthless or useless, when you learn to be firm in you, when you learn to give you what you wanted to give them, you become the best version of you. This lie of rejection and attachment through it becomes this powerful tool that you have become confidently attached to yourself, that you now say, I love me so much that I'm not going to allow you to rob me of my love of me. No situation, no job, no career, no person, no anything is ever going to rob you of this, because it loses authority. You've learned to grow in you, and there's so much power in loving yourself. And again, I say this often, just in case if you're new, if you haven't heard me speak before, I don't mean this from an arrogant standpoint. Like, I don't mean this from vanity. I don't mean this like you think that you're the greatest thing since sliced bread. I don't mean that. I mean this reality where you are able to love you so deeply that you understand that you're worth it, and that you don't let people tell you or dictate what you're worth. They don't control that value in you, because that value isn't in them. That's already been intrinsically put in your heart. God's already given you that. You're not basing that on people. You're basing that on you. And the question here is are you taking the rejection of another person as a challenge? Are you looking at what they said and did to you and saying, well, maybe if I try harder or if I do more? Now, are you creating a mountain out of this, that you are creating attachment to people or things based on the fact that they didn't love you enough, that they didn't make you feel validated enough? So now you think you have to earn that validation or that love. I need you to understand that when you grow in this, that when you create the security in you, that rejection does not mean pain. It means redirection. It means growth. It means you have this authority to do something beautiful in you, and you are free to do that. We need to stop going back to places of pain, trying to find purpose. And I think a lot of us, we tend to do that. We go back to a place because we want to find closure in it. We want to find healing in it. We can't heal in the same place that we were wounded. It's not possible. Our toxic attachment makes us think that it's the name for the answers. That's the thing that we need to do to be able to name that answer, to say, why did this happen? Find the reason for it. I need you to understand that you will never heal in a place that's causing you more wounds. It's like saying, I know you have a knife and you stabbed me, but I'm going to come back just in case, because I want to know why you stabbed me, and now you're stabbed again. We need to create separation. And I know this is a hard one for a lot of people. I know that the detachment component of this, of saying, well, I'm not served, loved, or valued in this place, it's the hard part to finally sit in what you're worth. But if we're doing the work to heal, we can't go back to the place that's causing the wound. We can't say, yes, I desire to be better, but I'm going to go back to the person or the job or the desire that I had, or the habits or the addictions, and let those things continue to be mountains in my life because I'm afraid to heal outside of them. Well, the hard part about healing isn't so much healing. The hard part about healing is understanding what you need to heal from. Because for a lot of us, we've created, again, these attachments to things, into people, into all these areas, but we don't know why. We don't identify the fact that they are touching a wound in us that feels normal. You don't stay in places that are toxic because it brings you joy, because it brings you the sense of stability within your toxicity. So the thing that you haven't healed in yourself, when you go back to people who vindicate that or are similar to that or jog that thing, there is a level of you that feels like you're in what's called homeostasis. When your body is at its most basic level, you are connecting your toxicity to that. You're connecting something in you that is not healed to that person. And this is where it becomes a little tricky, because the more healed you become, the harder it is for you to let yourself be put into those positions. But you also need to allow yourself to be vulnerable. And I know this is like a two-edged sword here, because we can't allow ourselves to be vulnerable if we don't allow ourselves to be in places that feel like they can potentially hurt us, but are the things that are going to love us the most. This is where we have that pendulum where it swings way too far to the other side. You have to be able to identify the stages of you that needed healing and not allow yourself to connect to the things that hurt you. And then by doing that, we don't create this dichotomy between the relationship that we have with the thing, whether it's a job, the person, whatever, or with the relationship that we have with our pain. And we're able to separate that. What happens for a lot of people is that they conflate that. They create this connection, the two. All right, let's take the example of a career, right? Your parents always told you that you needed to do X, Y, you needed to be a doctor, I don't know, for example. And they created this pressure in you for your whole life that you have to connect to this thing. So whenever you do anything else that you were dreaming of or asking of, what's happening now is that you feel like you're less than because you're not achieving that thing. And let's say you achieved it. Let's say you hit that goal, but now you feel like you don't have a purpose in it because it's not something that was natural to your desire, but it was something that was pushed and inclined in you. It was told that you have to be this thing, and you can never be free in something that isn't natural to you. You're going to feel like you have to perform. You're going to feel like you have to act. And anyone that's performed before, anyone that's played a sport, done anything, knows that they're very tired after it. Why? Because you are performing to a capacity that other people need to believe that you are that thing, or that you're exerting yourself physically. And what's going to happen at that? You're going to burn. You're going to burn out. So for a lot of people, they don't heal because they're living in the thing or trying to live in the thing that's caused from a wound that they've had. Now, this is super deep, and we probably will have we will have another episode specifically on healing. But just this thought that we create attachment to things because they relate to things that we have not healed from. And that goes a big one with people. I say this often, and I had a conversation with a friend of mine, and she was asking me, she's like, why is it that I keep having relationships and they keep ending up poorly, and the guys I date are all the same? And I'm like, because you're trying to date the same guy that you couldn't save before in the relationships that you're in now. You're looking for that thing that reminds you of them because you thought, again, rejection, attachment by rejection, you thought that if you were able to save this in someone else, that is going to heal that in you, and it's not. You're just looking for the same person in different bodies, and you'll never be able to heal from that because you're looking for something that you couldn't save, that you couldn't fix, or something that you felt rejected from, and now you think that it's your job to rescue these people. You're dating the same person over and over again, and your heart keeps getting broken. It's because you're doing the same thing with the same person. Yeah, they might look different, but it's still the same person. You're looking for that toxicity that you're so accustomed to, that your nervous system has become used to. It's become this reality of it. And I see this in so many relationships in the regular. I've been through this where because I don't argue, because I'm healed, the person that I've was with or am with, I'm not going to say which relationship of my life that's been the situation, but these people have been able to respond to me in the same way because they're so used to people who respond to them in a poor way. So when someone wants to communicate with you and they don't respond to that emotional instability or desire to argue, then it becomes a problem because you're not used to that. So what happens is deeply inside, you can't heal that because you're so used to this one way. Are you attached to the thing that you need to heal? Are you making this connection between your work environment, people you're dating, or the places you're in? Are you basing that thing on the rejection that you received before and thinking that you need to do those things just to heal or soothe that wound? And all you're actually doing is going back to that place to make the wound worse. You're hurting yourself more because you think that allowing yourself to be in that, it's going to heal that. We can't overcome what we're trying to make excuses for. And the mountain that we're in, right, the mountain of attachment has to be one of the hardest ones that you're ever going to let go of. Because we make it about so many other things. We make it about helping others, right? We say, well, I need to stay here because I need to help them. And I need you to understand that it's not your job to save or rescue anyone. You're not Superman, right? You can't go into burning buildings and try to force people out of buildings that they've become accustomed to the fire in. You can't tell people that you need to do this for them or force yourself to do this for them because you think that you are the reason that they're going to heal. It is not your job. And I know that's a hard one to take. And I know for my people pleasers out there that you're going to hear this and be kind of upset about it. But I need you to understand that you can love people and love them dearly and love them fully and not need to change them and not need to save them and not need to rescue them. And you can love them from a distance. There are friendships, there are family members that you can't do anything for. And the more you sit here and push into this, the harder this is going to hurt. Because you think that you doing something more for them is going to solve them. It's going to fix their problem. It's going to make them better. And unfortunately, you're just setting yourself up for heartbreak because no one changes unless they want to change. It's hard to change your own mind. What makes you think you're going to change someone else's? We make it about not putting enough effort. We say, well, the reason that we couldn't heal this or overcome this, again, excuses that we're making, is because we didn't try enough. We weren't trying hard enough. We weren't showing up enough. And then you take on this weight of not being able to solve their problems, and you make it about you. And you think that you have the solution for them, but you don't. You can't fix a person. You can't fix a job place. You can't fix a career. You can't fix a family member. You can't fix a friend. You can't change a person who doesn't desire to change by their own will. That's like something that happens often with addicts, right? People who are addicted to drugs or to alcohol. They revert back into their alcoholism when it's forced, when you have these meetings with them and you want to intervene and you say, well, we love you and we care for you, and you put them in a program and they do all these things, but they revert. They go back to the addiction they had, because the addiction they had is not about the addiction itself. It's not the thing. It's about the wound that it was healing. When they don't address those things, they'll revert to it. And as much as you love them, you can't force them. You can't force people to heal. The only thing you could do is reward things with distance. And again, this is not about like drugs or anything like that. That's a very, very specific and very deep and intricate conversation. This is about our mountain of attachment. And when we think that we can heal people and solve them, and we start making excuses for them, we start saying, well, look at their past, look at the thing that's happened to them. We take the responsibility on us over their problem. It's not your responsibility. It is not your job to do that. You will never be able to change someone who doesn't desire to change. And the only thing that you could do is create distance with them. Is know that, yes, you might love them, but you can't love them from up front. You have to love them, support them from the crowd, because it's draining and costing you so much. And it's creating this toxic attachment. And this mountain in your life is always going to be there because you consistently think that you have to be the hero. You don't. I say these next things not to hurt you, but to free you. Like these next words, I hope that you hear these and you allow yourself the freedom and the luxury to not need to fix everyone. Are you actually attached to them or the image that you've designed of them? Like, is it really who they are that you love? Or is it who you pretend that they can be? Is it the thing that you've created in your mind? Or is it who they're actually showing you? Like, it's what they do for you. Are they actually doing these things? I don't mean like just physical things. They're not just giving you things, but they're showing you that you matter. Do you actually feel seen, heard, loved, and validated? Or are you still begging for that? Sometimes the mountain of our attachment in our lives is kept alive. It's kept alive by us, like by our delusion, by our desire to hope and see that this person exists. And we try to make them be real. I need you to understand that there is no situation in where you having to beg someone to love you or to hear you or to see you is ever going to validate that relationship. It's ever going to say that they are real for you, that yes, you might have that image in your mind. You might have created this future. You might have created all these things that you're hoping to be real, that you're hoping to exist, but it doesn't mean that it's there. And I know that it's hard to swallow that pill sometimes, to realize that I have created a person in my mind that isn't in my life, that I'm more in love with the idea of them than the reality of who they're showing me that they are, that I'm more engulfed by this thought of being the hero, the Superman complex, where I can save them, than them actually wanting to be saved. And I know it hurts to know that you can bring all this amazingness to the table, but you've created an attachment to something that doesn't exist. And that's why it keeps floating away, because it's not actually there. It's not actually yours. And I know we need to be able to come to this conclusion at some point where we need to heal, but it won't happen without you facing this mountain, without you standing in front of this thing that you so desire, that you so want, that you are envisioning, engulfing. And again, even outside of relationships, I just take that one because it's like low-hanging fruit, because it's so common. But being able to see this thing and basing it on reality, not just basing it on hope and desire, but knowing that it's there, knowing that I have to face this thing. And if this is not an issue for you, right, saying that you're able to really face this mountain and come face it forward with it, then taking the things that I've become accustomed to rejection and turning that into growth. Because it doesn't matter that we know this. Like, let's be real. We can know all these facts up and down. We can have this to you blue in the face, but it doesn't actually matter. It doesn't matter to hear these things. It doesn't matter to read these things. It doesn't matter to have these self-help books. It doesn't matter to go to these retreats and congresses and conferences and all these things. You can do all those things and it could mean absolutely nothing. Because the same way that you can't change them, only you can change you. Only you can decide that I no longer want to repeat these cycles, that I no longer want to be in this, that I no longer want to continue to pour into that. And it's not an easy process. I am not by any means watering it down or downplaying it. This is one of the hardest things you will ever do. I think that this is the hardest mountain for a lot of us, that knowing that we're free from this, because taking it back to the relationship component, right? It's hard to heal from heartbreak. It's hard to sit through something like this. It's hard to detach and to say that this thing no longer has authority over me. It's so hard. But the more you repeat this, the more you practice this reality, the more you live this, the easier everything else around you becomes. The easier the life you live becomes, the easier the choices you're going to make next become, and the easier it is to overcome any other attachment. So our invitation in this episode for you is that, is to really sit here and again, it doesn't matter what it is. I'm just honing in on relationships because I know it's tough and I know it's a common one. But where is this attachment in your life that you have created a connection with based on the rejection of? So you've created this relationship with this attachment that you're struggling with right now, or you're living with, or it's just a part of something that you feel like you need to be freed from, that you've made this a connection, and now you need to sever it. And you can't go back to those things. In Spanish, there's a saying, un refrán que dice, donde hubo fuego, cenizas quedan. Where there was fire, we still have ashes. Knowing that going back to these places that have hurt me, it's going to rekindle something in me. And it doesn't mean it has to be romantic. It could just be something that needs to be killed. It could just be something that you have created this relationship with, but the toxicity in it, whenever you go back around it, is as amplified. It's brought to the surface. It's okay to walk away from places where there's no value for you. Life is way too short. You have a limited amount of time in this earth for you to continue to stay in things that don't serve you. And I don't, again, like I said before, I don't mean it in a vain or arrogant way. I mean it in a way that cares and loves for you, because that's the only person that is ever going to worry about that. No one else is going to die your death. No one else is going to pay your taxes. No one else is going to do the things that you need for you. And if you begin to neglect you because you want other people to like you, because that people pleasing in you is there, because that attachment by rejection is there, because that mountain that you've created there or have allowed to exist there, no one else is going to care for you. You have to learn to love you. You have to learn to care for you. So I hope that this episode, at the very least, jogs a thought. What's that mountain of rejection? What's that thing that I'm still there? And that we turn pain into purpose. That thing that was hurting me is now a tool that I use as a part of the story. Thank you for being here. Thank you for just joining this episode. And I don't think it's the next episode. I think it's like an episode after this. But we're actually going to have some guests joining us. So I'm really excited about that. I won't spoil that now. I'll promote that later on. But thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being a part of this episode. And we'll see you in the next one.